Coming up on today's show.
The secret is just to have a system in place for how you're going to move the art from A to B to C to D.
Some with like family photos too, where people will have like a staircase, and going up the staircase, they've got, their kids from 1-year-old all the way up to college or whatever.
When the artwork comes in, we need to triage it.
Oh.
So what I suggest is, your child comes home, they have their bag or their backpack, you take it out, and in that moment,
organizing kids' artwork today on Keeping You Organized. Hello, welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we are going to get a little organizing project. We should on a show like this, don't you think? Putting together some good plans for organizing kids' artwork. And we're going to bring on Shauna Turner, theshaunamethod.com. Shauna, welcome back to Keeping You Organized.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, it's always fun having you because you have great, before, you're featured a lot, on our Blogger Roundup show, and we always kind of kid you about the artwork that you use. Now, some of those pictures are not yours, right?
That's true. Not all the pictures are from me personally. Some of them are stock images, but some of them are actual Shauna Method photos.
Okay, good. Well, we were just trying to clarify that on a few shows. The one we had on a recent show where the gum sticking at the bottom of the shoe, that probably was a stock art, but that was a real interesting photo. I think it was when you were talking about getting stuck, right?
Totally. Yeah, that was a stock photo.
Yes, that was great. Anyway, well, we're going to talk about artwork today, but we're talking, it's kind of that season of back to school. Kids have been in school for a few weeks, and I guess the artwork's starting to roll in now because art is part of a lot of kids' programs. So how do we want to navigate this, organizing kids' artwork? That seems like kind of a big project.
It's a big project, especially if you have children who are preschool and kind of early elementary years. Those are sort of the hot and heavy years for artwork. And the secret is just to have a system in place for how you're going to move the art from A to B to C to D. Because if you don't, it tends to end up getting stacked and piled or shoved on the fridge. And what should be fun and pleasant and happy ends up being sort of a hassle.
Okay, well, with someone who has a business called the Shauna Method, I bet we have an artwork method or system that you're going to recommend to us. So what's the first piece we have to consider?
So the first thing that I recommend parents do is establish a gallery, an art gallery inside your house. And that is to decide, where are we going to hang whatever children's artwork comes in. Maybe it's going to be in your mudroom, on the wall of the mudroom. Maybe it's a wall in your kitchen, a wall in the playroom. Sometimes a good place is the wall that leads down to the basement where the children play. Just decide where it's going to live so that it doesn't end up everywhere, but that we have a designated spot.
That's great, because in organizing, it's the phrase we hear all the time is everything has a place. Same with artwork, right? The gallery is the place.
The gallery is the place. It provides a natural boundary so that you don't overstuff and you don't get overrun with the artwork.
Right. I've seen all kinds of this done, some with like family photos too, where people will have like a staircase, and going up the staircase, they've got, their kids from 1-year-old all the way up to college or whatever. And so I know what we're talking about is more the artwork that gets created, but that idea of having a space is really good.
Yeah, up the staircase is another great example. You walk by it all day long, you'll enjoy looking at those photos. So That's a great place. So we just need to establish a place.
Okay, great. So let's say we have the gallery in place. What's next?
So the next thing we have to decide is, how are we going to hang up the artwork in the gallery? There are lots of different choices for this. If you want to go super simple, I recommend that people just use painter's tape. And that can come in different colors if your children are into that, because the painter's tape is sticky enough to hold the artwork and it won't damage your walls. So that's sort of the most simple solution.
Right, yeah. And some of that's, can you get the painter's tape or stuff like that that's double-sided, or we just take a piece and flip it over and kind of put it on the back? Or are you saying just do it on the outside edges of it?
I would do it on the outside edges. Our goal is to really hang it up there. And if we cut colored painter's tape, it kind of becomes part of the design of the area.
The look. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Yep, you can put it right on the top. And it will also peel off the artwork and not damage the artwork as well. So it's kind of a double win.
Oh, that's a great idea. Good.
And then, there are more sophisticated ways you can go. You can hang a string or maybe a couple of wires. There are products now at IKEA and Target. You can get them on Amazon that do this. So you hang a wire and then you just use little clips to hang up the artwork.
Right.
So maybe a touch more work in the beginning to install the wires or the strings, but very easy to use in the moment because it's super easy to clip artwork on and off to a wire.
And you know, you can go on Pinterest too and find out all kinds of creative ways, creative ways to hang stuff. And I know on this show before I've talked about, we have that picture frame that you stick it right in there.
Right, so that's a neat frame. There are some of those will hold up to 50 pieces of art, and they open from the front. Mm-hmm. And today you can even get like a 3-pack with 3 different sizes. So you literally open the door and it's spring loaded. You just put the piece in, it catches on the corners, and then close the door. So that's another nice option.
Awesome. Now, I'm thinking if you hang this stuff up with the painter's tape, you probably don't have that little plaque below that, you know, has the name of the artwork and the date. This is just something more functional, right?
It's very functional, but what you're talking about is really part of our next step, which is super important.
Well, let's move on to the next step then.
Right. So step 3 is when the artwork comes in, we need to triage it. Oh. So what I suggest is, you know, your child comes home, they have their bag or their backpack, you take it out, and in that moment, talk to your child. Say, tell me about this. Tell me what it is, or describe what it's about. And that's your chance to sort of capture what they say on the back, especially if you have a little one. So they come home and say, this is mommy in her party dress. You could sort of jot that down on the back because, you know, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you won't remember that was a picture of mommy in her party dress. But if you captured her in the moment, then you'll remember. And if she has a title or he has a title for the piece, you can kind of jot that down on the back too.
I'm thinking, I don't know why I'm thinking this, but this sounds like a little Instagram video moment. You could just even video that. They come in, you say, hey, tell me about this piece of work, and they start telling the story. You could do it that way for a electronic version. But so do you actually write on the artwork, or are you saying maybe take a piece of painter's tape or something and put it on the back?
So you can just write on the back. You could also write it on the painter's tape and put it beneath, like that plaque idea that you were just talking about. And as you just mentioned, this can also be a great moment if you are into sort of digitizing. You can take a picture of every piece that comes in. And so there are apps like Artkive, Artkive. And another app that I like is called Keepy, Keepy. And both of these apps allow you to use your smartphone to take a picture, upload it to their app, and you can assign it to a child. So if you have 3 kids, you can set up 3 kids and their grade. You can quickly type in a description or a title for the piece. And Keepy even allows you to audio record the child talking about the piece, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, and it all starts. Are those paid accounts or are those free apps?
They're free to sign up and get started. And then if you want to make something out of what you've collected, then there's a price for that.
Got it. Great. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, I want to get more into we're just getting into it's coming in the door. We're kind of learning about it, but there's so much more I know to, you know, the posting in the gallery and like what we do with it afterwards. So let's talk about that in a moment. We're with Shauna Turner talking about how to organize kids' artwork, and we'll be right back. New solutions for your desktop from MyOrganize.life. Fall is a time for a change in colors, and now you can brighten up your desktop with organizing products from MyOrganize.life. Colorful, fresh, invigorating. Give your desktop a new look with new desktop solutions from MyOrganize.life. That's MyOrganize.life. MyOrganize.life. We're back now and keeping you organized, talking about organizing kids' artwork. It's a task this time of year and for really the whole school year where things are coming in the door by droves, depending on the age of the kid. But we've got Shauna Turner from the ShaunaMethod.com. And Shauna, so we're just kind of at that stage when we took the break where we've come in, we've kind of got the triage going, kind of find out from the kid, what is this all about? Maybe write it on the back, maybe even use some of those apps you mentioned. But is there anything else in the triage area that we need to talk about?
So just remember, you don't have to hang up everything, right? Yeah. You want to hang up the stuff that they seem excited about. So they might come home with 3 or 4 pieces of art, and some of it maybe is just something they scribbled on that they don't care that much, or they don't want to talk about, they're not interested in. But another piece they might really want to talk to you about, like maybe they made a self-portrait and they want to tell you all about that. Those are the ones that we want to prioritize to be putting into the gallery.
Right, yeah, and I'm thinking now you're playing the role of curator in the gallery. So let's just say you decide not to use one piece of art, but you maybe want to keep it. What are we supposed to do with that?
Right, so part of the system is to have a place that's super easy to access for the art that we're going to keep.
Okay.
Whether it makes it to the gallery or doesn't make it to the gallery. We want to have a storage place, and I like to have a place for each child in the family, so that's important. We don't want to mix all the kids together because that's just a hassle later. And the other thing is it needs to be easy to access. So this is not the box that's going up in the attic stacked underneath 3 other boxes. This is a place that you can easily sort of just open, toss, done.
Right. Give me an example, like maybe from a client you've worked with, where you'd put that and like what size. What are we talking? Containers here or what?
So it can be a variety of places. If you have little ones, they often come in with these sort of newsprint size pieces of paper. So it needs to be pretty big, especially for preschoolers. And I've done plastic bins. Sometimes a plastic, low profile plastic bin, the large ones that can slide under a bed or even under maybe a piece of furniture in your dining room, someplace that you can just tuck it away. And another good solution is if you have maybe a dresser or a hutch, you could designate one drawer for each child, or a drawers in a mudroom. That's another thing you can do. So again, the idea is it should be on the first floor, close to where the kids walk in if possible, enough that you can have one designated space for each child.
Wow. Okay, well, this role of curator is getting kind of heavy here, because what happens if you have a full house? You've got a gallery that's full. How do you decide like when the showing is over and when the new showing goes up?
So it's the same principle we talk about for everything you own. And that is when one comes in, one has to go out. So let's say your child comes in, they bring in 3 pieces of artwork. One of the 3 seems to be kind of getting them excited. They're enjoying talking about it. That's the one that's going to go into the gallery. So we take it over with the child and we hang it up, and we take one of the pieces out of the gallery. Okay. So we don't want the gallery to become flooded. We never want to layer in the gallery. We don't want one thing taped over another, right? We never see that in a museum. So it's got to be kind of one in, one out.
Okay. And then what do you do with those pieces that you take out? I mean, is that probably another step here we're looking at?
So that gets back to what we were just talking about, which is those pieces are probably going to go into our designated container.
Okay.
So the drawer, the low profile box under the bed or under the dresser. You can also do something simple, like take 2 pieces of poster board, large poster board, and just use painter's tape or duct tape along 3 edges and make like a giant portfolio for the artwork. And something like that can, slip behind any large piece of furniture. You can just grab it, toss it in, slip it back in.
Okay, right. Now what I would imagine is by the time they're into high school, this is going to be a pretty big portfolio of stuff. Is there anything in your system that kind of takes into consideration, it might be time for that one to be archived or some kind of thing like that?
100%. No high schooler wants you to hand them 12 boxes of their artwork to take with them to college or their first apartment. So the key is curating is such a great word because we want to find a way to keep the best, right? So what I suggest is when you're getting to the end of the school year, and you can either involve your child if they're old enough or interested, or if they're not, you can do it yourself. And you want to dump out that container, whether it was the box, the drawer, the folder, whatever, the file folder, whatever you set up. You want to take everything out and you want to group like pieces together. So maybe all the giant pieces of newsprint with big swaths of paint go together. And maybe all the rainbow pictures that they drew go together. What you sometimes see with kids is that they kind of click on to something for a given school year, and they might do multiple paintings or drawings of this very same thing. And so I can say, wow, you did, 24 rainbow pictures this year, but I'm only going to keep the rainbow picture that was the best.
Right.
And the rest of the other 23 can go into the recycle bin.
That's it. That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. And the other thing you want to remember when you're sorting this is you don't want to keep anything that has been made with food because that attracts bugs. So if it has beans or pasta or something like that, we don't want to keep that.
Okay. Have you ever thought or ever had anyone who really maybe there's one piece they really, really, really like, and maybe it's on a piece of paper. Take a digital print and then maybe make it into one of those canvas oil prints. Have you ever heard of it? And make it into more of a permanent piece? Totally.
So what I suggest is, first of all, if they have a three-dimensional piece, like they made something out of clay, if that's really special to them, that maybe can go to their room as a piece of decor on the dresser or on a shelf. And probably the next year, when they're a whole year older, that's going to feel a long time ago for them. They may not want that anymore. But if they really want to keep it and it's three-dimensional, maybe think about putting it in their room. If it's a super special piece and the whole family was like, wow, this is pretty amazing, maybe you want to either digitize it and print it as a picture that you frame that becomes sort of a more permanent thing, not in the gallery. This might be somewhere else. Or the other thing I really love is maybe to take all of those images. So if you've done the photographing and used the app when they walked in the door, you're kind of already like 80% of the way there. But even if you didn't, you can just say, let me do the sort. Let me pick out the pieces we like the best. Now I'm going to take photographs of those and make them into photo books. So I have a little show and tell. I sometimes suggest that you make something like this, maybe one for preschool and one for elementary.
Oh, that is really cool. So you have a permanent kind of, it's not really a scrapbook, it's an actual art book, right?
It's an actual art book. And this is so easy for a young adult to take as opposed to a big bin of artwork that they probably won't want. And what you can do when you use these apps, which is so nice, is you can title them and you can even write down, here's the title that she gave it, or you have an opportunity to place some of the things that the child said about it so that, they can look back on it in the future and say, oh, I kind of remember that now, So 2 little books takes, 7, 8, 9 years worth of artwork. And it's a great way that they can have it their whole lives.
So just to clarify, which app or which program or website do you use to produce those books?
So if you started out with an archive or a Keepy, you can go right through the app. You can just go back to the pictures you took there, say, I like this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, make a book. So that's super easy. But you could also just take pictures on your iPhone and upload them to a site like a Shutterfly and make a book there.
Awesome. This is fantastic. Now, are there any other tips before we wrap up here on this whole system? Do we cover everything?
So the only thing I would say is that when you're considering what artwork to keep, remember that kind of less is more on this when you're doing the end of the year sort, and think about keeping the pieces that reflect your child. So if it is a piece of artwork they made with a bunch of shapes that the teacher cut out, that probably can go. That probably won't mean as much to you. If it's just scribbles on a coloring page, that won't mean as much to you. But if it is something that your child sort of revealed him or herself through and gave a little window into what your child was like in that year at that moment, those are the pieces that are really worth saving.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic. So it's kind of a version of a scrapbook, but it's an art book. I really like that concept, and I think that's a great way to organize kids' artwork. Well, Shauna, let's take just a moment here to tell people about the kinds of services you offer and how people can get a hold of you.
So I work in primarily residential and small business organizing for time, space, and belongings. I also offer virtual organizing services for time management, if anybody's interested in that. And people can find me on my website at www.theshaunamethod.com.
Awesome. Well, this has been very interesting, and I'm hoping my wife and daughter are watching this show today too, because we have a lot of this. She actually loves doing art. She's a little bit older, 14, but she's creating some really incredible like watercolor stuff, and I think it'd be really cool to do one of those books for her. So
Oh, I think she would love it. And lucky you, you're going to have some beautiful art for your walls.
That would be great. Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, Shauna, thank you so much. We'll, I'm sure, have you back, and we'll probably hear about you on Blogger Roundup again, too, sometime on a Friday on Facebook.
I love our relationship. Thank you so much, you guys.
Right, great. Well, there you have it, folks. Now you know how to organize that kids' artwork that's coming in the doors this time of year, and ultimately creating your own book. You can be a published artist. What a deal that is. And then just remember to come back next time here on Keeping You Organized.